The sun dipped below the horizon in Santa Monica, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange. Waves crashed rhythmically against the shore, blending with the lively chatter of tourists. Among them, Sienna Carter stood in the center of a tour group, holding up a shimmering seashell, her voice animated and full of life. "This is the ocean's most vivid proof of life, and if you're lucky, you might just see sharks dancing under the moonlight tonight." Laughter rippled through the crowd, a few tourists raising their phones to capture the moment. Sienna smirked, proud of her ability to entertain, even if only for a fleeting second. But just as quickly, her smile faded when her phone buzzed insistently in the pocket of her shorts. A message from her mother, Valerie. "Lucas Montgomery has agreed to meet you tonight. Don't disappoint me." Sienna clenched the seashell in her palm. Lucas Montgomery, the arrogant, wealthy heir to a real estate empire, the man her mother had mentioned at least 100 times, as if he were the golden ticket to saving their struggling family tour business. "Sienna, are you okay?" a girl from the group asked, noticing the shift in her expression. Sienna forced a grin, masking the frustration bubbling inside her. "Oh, I just remembered I'm facing the biggest wave of my life tonight." The group chuckled, oblivious. But deep down, Sienna knew that wave had a name, and it was Lucas Montgomery. After the tour ended, Sienna plopped down onto the sand, popped open a cold beer, and took a long sip. The bitter taste spread across her tongue as her phone buzzed relentlessly. "Valerie, if you don't marry Lucas, the company will go bankrupt. Your brother won't go to college. Do you want our family on the streets?" Sienna took another swig, the alcohol burning slightly in her throat. She loved her family, but the thought of becoming Lucas Montgomery's wife made her stomach turn. She glanced at the waves, then let out a dry, bitter laugh. "I'd rather be a shark than a trophy wife on a yacht." And then a reckless, insane idea struck her. She recalled what Haley, her best friend at the beachfront cafe, had once said. "Lucas only wants a perfect woman. If you get even the slightest bad reputation, he'll run." Sienna blinked. A bad reputation? If she made Lucas believe she had spent the night with someone else, he'd disappear for good. A risky, desperate move, but her only way out. She stood up abruptly, eyes scanning the beach. She needed someone. Not necessarily handsome, not necessarily rich, just someone crazy enough to go along with her plan. That's when she saw him, a surfer struggling with a battered board, cursing softly as a screwdriver slipped into the sand. Ryan Caldwell. His damp t-shirt clung to his skin, drops of seawater still dripping from his tousled hair. Not bad, probably good enough to send Lucas running. Sienna smirked and strode over. Ryan looked up, raising an eyebrow as she approached. "Hey, the board can wait till morning. How about a drink instead?" Ryan eyed her curiously before flashing a lazy grin. "Are you planning to finish that beer alone, or are you offering me a sip?" Sienna extended the bottle toward him, her voice cool. "Up to you, but if you're free, I need a favor." Ryan took a swig, amusement flickering in his eyes. "A favor? What kind of favor makes you hunt down a random surfer in the middle of the night?" Sienna met his gaze, a sly smile playing on her lips. "Sleep with me, just for a night." Ryan choked on his beer, coughing and staring at her, wide-eyed. "Excuse me, what?" Sienna folded her arms, unfazed. "You heard me. I'm being forced into marriage and you are my way out. Deal or no deal." Ryan studied her for a long moment before suddenly bursting into laughter, a deep, amused chuckle that overpowered even the crashing waves. "Are you drunk or just insane?" Sienna shrugged. "Both, but I'm serious. Help me, and I'll owe you one." Ryan shook his head, still chuckling, but his eyes gleamed with amusement. "You are, without a doubt, the craziest woman on this beach. But all right. Tell me everything first. I don't like playing pretend without context." And under the moonlit sky, with the waves whispering secrets only the ocean knew, two strangers made a deal that neither of them realized would change their lives forever. Ryan was still staring at Sienna like she had just asked him to rob a bank. "You're serious?" he asked, disbelief still lacing his voice. Sienna folded her arms, her expression unwavering. "Dead serious. If I get a bad reputation, Lucas will drop me. All you have to do is pretend we spent the night together. Simple. Ryan chuckled, shaking the beer bottle in his hand. So you want some random surfer to play your overnight boyfriend? Do you realize how insane that sounds? Sienna shrugged, feigning indifference. Insane but effective, and I need someone completely outside my world. You fit the bill perfectly. Ryan studied her for a long moment before suddenly laughing. You are hands down the craziest woman I've ever met. Sienna smirked, lifting her beer bottle in mock salute. Thanks, so are you in or not? Ryan sighed, then took another sip. Fine, but just so we're clear, I'm not actually sleeping with you. I'll only pretend. That enough? Sienna grinned slyly. More than enough. As long as Lucas thinks I'm not perfect anymore, he'll run for the hills. Ryan shook his head with amusement before clinking his bottle against hers. Well then, here's to your freedom. They drank in unison, the sound of waves filling the silence between them. A few minutes later, Sienna leaned back, lying flat on the sand, eyes gazing at the vast, starry sky. So Ryan, why is a surfer like you out here alone at midnight, wrestling with a beat-up board? Ryan lay back beside her, hands behind his head. Because I like peace and quiet, and you just completely ruined it, he teased. Sienna laughed. Oh, my bad, but hey, now you get to be part of my crazy plan. Consider it a fair trade. Ryan glanced at her, a spark of intrigue flickering in his eyes. I have to admit, I'm getting pretty curious. Start from the beginning. I want to hear the whole story. Under the moonlit sky, amidst the salty breeze and rolling waves, a deal was struck. Neither of them knew that this little game of pretend was about to get far more dangerous than either had anticipated. The next morning, Sienna walked into the beachfront cafe, feeling triumphant now that her plan was taking effect. But the moment she stepped inside, she realized something was different. People were staring, a few tourists whispered, and the baristas exchanged knowing smirks. Haley rushed over, practically bouncing with excitement. You're a legend. The whole town is talking about you. Sienna raised an eyebrow. What did I do? Haley grinned and held up her phone. Sienna Carter, the tour guide who had a wild night with a hot surfer, the rumor spread faster than the waves. Sienna nearly choked on her coffee. What? And sure enough, by midday, the entire town was buzzing. Sienna was basking in her victory when the cafe door burst open. Valerie stormed in, waving her phone furiously. Sienna, what is this? Sienna calmly took a sip of coffee. It's just a rumor, Mom. No big deal. Valerie gasped in outrage. No big deal? You just destroyed your chance with Lucas. Sienna smirked. Exactly, that was the goal. Before Valerie could respond, the cafe door swung open again. Lucas Montgomery stormed inside, his face dark with fury. Sienna Carter, he growled, his eyes burning into hers. Sienna turned to face him, unfazed. Oh, Lucas, heard something interesting about me? Lucas clenched his fists, his face turning red. Did you really spend the night with some surfer? Sienna tilted her head, lips curling into a mischievous smirk. Oh, absolutely. Last night was unforgettable. Lucas slammed his fist on the table, making nearby customers jump. You think I'd still marry someone like you? You've ruined yourself. Without another word, Lucas spun on his heel and stormed out of the cafe, rage radiating off him. Sienna propped her chin on her hand, taking another sip of coffee, utterly satisfied. Well, that went even better than expected. Haley clapped her hands in delight. I've never seen anyone dump a billionaire like that. You're officially my hero. But Valerie was far from amused. She glared at Sienna, her voice low and warning. You think this is over? You have no idea what you've just done, Sienna. 3 hours after Lucas stormed out, Sienna was still basking in her victory. She lounged on the office couch, feet propped up on the desk, sipping a cold soda. Across from her, Valerie was not amused. She shuffled through a pile of overdue bills, frowning. You may have gotten rid of Lucas, but the company is still drowning in debt, Sienna. Sienna shrugged, taking another sip. I just dodged a forced marriage, now it's your turn to figure out a new solution. Leave me out of it. Valerie sighed, then smirked mysteriously. Actually, I already found one. Sienna sat up, wary. You're not matchmaking again, are you? Valerie grinned. Not exactly, but someone important is coming to meet you tonight. Don't screw it up. The unexpected guest. At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. Sienna sat on the couch, arms crossed, dressed in an old t-shirt and ripped shorts in silent protest. Valerie rushed to the door, her voice sweet. Welcome, thank you for coming. Sienna didn't bother looking up until she heard a very familiar voice. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Torres. Her head snapped up and she nearly fell off the couch. Standing at the door in a crisp suit, his hair neatly styled, was Ryan Caldwell, the surfer she had convinced to be her fake fling, now standing in her house as a CEO. Sienna gaped. What? Ryan smirked. Nice to meet you. For the first time. And just like that, her world flipped upside down. Ryan was forced to stay at Sienna's house for a few days thanks to Valerie. Sienna hated it. Ryan enjoyed every second of annoying her. Living together quickly turned into a war zone. One morning, Sienna walked into the kitchen and saw Ryan sitting on the counter, laptop open, sipping coffee like it was his personal office. Morning, fake wife. Sleep well? He smirked. Sienna grumbled, pouring coffee, then accidentally spilled the entire cup onto Ryan's laptop. Oh, come on! Ryan jumped up, staring at his soaked device. Sienna gasped. Oops, your fault. Who puts a laptop near me? Ryan narrowed his eyes. Fine, payback time. That afternoon, Sienna opened Ryan's travel app and nearly screamed. Right next to her name in bold letters it read, Sienna Carter, snoring queen. Arion, she lunged for his phone. Ryan grinned. It's the truth, just enhancing the user experience. But between the bickering, something changed. One night, they sat on the beach, quietly watching the waves. Ryan broke the silence. If you weren't being forced into marriage, what would you want? Sienna hesitated, then whispered, freedom, a life where no one controls me. Ryan studied her, his gaze intense. Then why do I feel like we're exactly where we're supposed to be? Sienna stiffened. For the first time, she had no comeback. The next morning, Sienna still couldn't shake Ryan's words from the night before. Then why do I feel like we're exactly where we're supposed to be? She hated how those words made her heart race. Determined to avoid Ryan, she left her room early. But the moment she stepped into the living room, she froze. Ryan was sitting across from Valerie, an investment contract laid out on the table. This is fantastic, Ryan. If you invest, we can save everything. Valerie beamed. But Ryan merely smirked. I'm still considering it, Mrs. Torres, but there's one important condition. Sienna frowned, sensing trouble. What condition? Sienna's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she thought she had misheard him. What? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Ryan exhaled, his expression unreadable. Marriage guarantees stability. You need to save your company, and I need a reliable partner. Sienna's hands clenched around the contract. Her vision blurred as an awful realization hit her. Ryan wasn't so different from Lucas after all. So this is it? She let out a bitter laugh. I thought you were different, Ryan, but in the end, you just want to control me too. Ryan's jaw tightened. I don't want to control you, Sienna. I'm giving you a choice. But to Sienna, it didn't feel like a choice. It felt like another cage. Her chest ached, and without another word, she turned and stormed out, ignoring Ryan calling after her. Ryan shrugged, unbothered. Dead serious. Marriage guarantees stability, you need to save your company, and I need a reliable partner. Sienna let out a cold laugh. A partner? Or just another contract to tie me down? Valerie quickly interjected. Sienna, think realistically. This isn't forced, it's an opportunity. But Sienna only felt suffocated. She stepped up to Ryan, voice trembling with anger. You said you weren't like Lucas, But in the end, you just want to trap me too. Ryan met her gaze, his expression unreadable. No, I'm not trapping you. I'm giving you a choice. But all Sienna felt was betrayal. She threw the contract onto the table and stormed out. With the forced wedding looming closer, Sienna felt like she was suffocating. So she decided to run. 1 a.m. Sienna silently dragged her suitcase out of the house, heart racing. She jumped into a taxi, gripping a one-way ticket to Hawaii. No one is going to control my life anymore. But just as she reached the boarding gate, a familiar voice rang out behind her. Running away without me, Sienna? Sienna froze. She turned around, and her breath caught. Ryan stood there, panting, his shirt drenched in sweat as if he had sprinted all the way. She gawked at him. What? What are you doing here? Ryan didn't answer right away. Instead, he lifted a familiar surfboard. Carved into the wood, her name. Sienna felt her heart stutter. Sienna's breath hitched. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But fear still clung to her like an anchor, whispering doubts in her mind. What if he changed? What if this was just another beautiful lie? Her fingers trembled as she stared at the plane ticket in her hand. One step and she could escape everything. No risks, no heartbreaks. But then she looked at Ryan, the man who had driven her insane, made her laugh when she wanted to cry, the only person who had ever truly seen her for who she was. Her chest tightened. Maybe, just maybe this time, she wasn't running away from a prison. Maybe she was running toward something real. Taking a shaky breath, she tore the ticket in half. Fine, she whispered, her lips trembling into a smile. I'm not leaving. She let out a shaky laugh, tears brimming in her eyes. You're insane. Ryan just smiled, waiting. Sienna looked down at the plane ticket in her hand, standing at the biggest crossroads of her life. She held onto it for a moment, then suddenly tore it in half. The pieces fluttered to the floor along with the last of her doubts. She looked back up at Ryan, her smile small but sure. Fine. I'm not leaving. Ryan broke into a grin, pulling her into his arms. Sienna was still afraid, but for the first time, she felt like this was exactly where she was meant to be. After that night at the airport, Sienna and Ryan returned to Santa Monica no longer as rivals, but as two people who had chosen each other. Valerie nearly fainted when she saw them walk in together. Sienna, what did you just do? She shrieked. Sienna shrugged, squeezing Ryan's hand tighter. I just did what I wanted for once. Valerie narrowed her eyes at Ryan. Did you force her to come back? Ryan smiled, shaking his head. No, Mrs. Torres. Sienna isn't someone who can be forced into anything. Sienna looked at Ryan, warmth filling her heart. He never wanted to control her, never wanted to demand anything. He just wanted to be by her side. Valerie finally sighed, though there was the faintest hint of a smile. As long as my daughter is happy. And this time Sienna knew she truly was. 1 year later, their mornings started with coffee and playful banter, their days filled with sunlit boat tours and moonlit walks along the shore. Ryan never stopped teasing her, and Sienna never stopped pretending to be annoyed, even when she secretly loved it. 1 year, 1,000 little moments, and somewhere along the way, they had built a life together, not out of obligation, but out of love. But the most special moment was still to come. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the ocean in fiery gold. Sienna walked barefoot along the shore, remembering the night she had first met Ryan here. She turned to look for him, and her breath caught. Ryan was kneeling in the sand, holding a small velvet box. Sienna covered her mouth, stunned. Ryan, what are you doing? Ryan smiled, his gaze steady and full of warmth. I told you before I'd never force you into anything, but today I want to ask you, because I love you more than anything. He flipped open the box. A ring sparkled inside, catching the last light of the sunset. Sienna Carter, will you spend forever with me? Sienna felt her heart swell. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't running anymore. She had found the person she truly wanted to be with. A radiant smile spread across her lips. Yes, I do. Ryan laughed in pure joy, pulling her into his arms. The waves crashed softly against the shore, witnesses to a love that had weathered every storm and finally found its perfect ending.